Okay, maybe today we'll try to understand. Yeah. But if I can remember, it sounds similar to like probably 20 years ago when I was in my college days. Like, we used to wonder like how mobile internet would look like and whatnot, and we have seen how it has grown over the last 20 years. So probably principles.
Okay. Harshita ji, do we start? Dheeraj ji, Tapasvi ji?
Yes, sir. I think we should start. People would be, of course, joining in about more 5-10 minutes, but I think we should stick to our time.
Okay. Harshita ji, over to you.
Yes. Jai Janendra, everyone. I am Harshita Jain, and on behalf of JITO Youth Wing, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all for one of the most awaiting event, the second session of JPF iBox, organized by JITO Professional Forum and JITO Youth Wing. Let us start this event with the recital of Navkar Mantra. So, are you all excited to witness something big tonight? First, just a few instructions to maintain the decorum of the event. Participants shall not be allowed to unmute to have an uninterrupted flow of the conversation by the speakers. Chat shall be open to host during the speech, and for any question to be asked during the Q&A, please write in the chat box. Participants shall not be allowed to rename themselves, and a feedback form link shall be floated during the event. Everyone is requested to fill the same. Everyone is requested to follow these instructions for smooth functioning of the event. Starting with a quick introduction of the JITO Youth Wing and JPF. JITO Professional Forum is an individual wing of Jain International Trade Organization which focuses on connecting the Jain government personnel, CAs, architects, doctors, and other professionals on one platform. The cross-sectional interaction among these people and JITO members helps knowledge sharing and discussing fundamental issues, etc. JITO Youth Wing of JITO focuses on connecting the young Jains to the mainstream and to take the advantage of power of the youth. Presently, JITO Youth Wing is present in over 53 chapters with over 7,000 members and is working consistently to empower the youth worldwide to achieve transformation to leadership, technology, and skill development. To know more, contact your chapter chairmen or Manisha. The contact details shall be posted in the chat box. JITO Youth Wing curates programs focused on economic empowerment, knowledge, and growth. One such program is JPF iBox, wherein corporate executives and youth icon can bring big ideas, emerging trends, innovations, etc. to the JITO members at large. We welcome you all to the second session of JPF iBox. We would like to also acknowledge the presence of Ajayji Bora, Chairman JPF, Dhiraji Chajer, Chairman JITO Youth Wing, Milind G. Shah, Director in Charge, JITO Professional Forum, Praveen G. Bafna, Director in Charge, JITO Youth Wing, Tapasvi Ji Deora, Chief Secretary, JPF, Gaurav Ji Jain, Chief Secretary, JYW, and all the project conveners for JPF and the entire JITO Youth Wing team. Without further wait, let's start our session introducing our first speaker for today, Mr. Rajil Jain from Facebook, now Meta USA. Mr. Rajil Jain is an enabler of IIT Kanpur and completed his B.Tech and M.Tech from IIT Kanpur. He was the recipient of the prestigious Academic Excellence Award at IIT Kanpur. At the age of 22, he started his professional journey in analytics and data science space, consulting pharmaceutical clients on their sales and marketing strategies. He was instrumental in developing response models to improve ROI of marketing budgets. In the last 13 years, he has worked for various companies like Cognizant, American Express, where he has used machine learning and artificial intelligence to understand user behavior and their risk of defaults. This powered AMX risk management strategies globally. With his help, AMX were able to grow at a rapid pace while maintaining lower losses than industry. He is currently settled in USA since 2015 and have led global teams of data scientists, machine learning engineers, and business consultants. He is currently working with the Meta platforms, particularly Instagram, and handles the Instagram's data strategy in youth safety space, where they use data to assess which new features should be launched and cancelled so as to save a youth from online harm. Welcome, Mr. Rajal Jain.
Thanks a lot, Harshita, and thanks a lot, JPF, for providing me this platform to discuss more about the metaverse. So I guess I'll get started. Harshita, just a quick technical question. I'm not able to share my screen somehow. It only says that only host can share. If you can give me host rights, or if you can share the presentation, that would be great, and we'll get started.
Yes.
Yeah. Indra, if you can please give the rights to the co-host, please.
Yes, I had given.
Okay, please go ahead. Rajilji, now if you can please try.
Still not working. Let me.
Anyone else also mentioning managing the host, right? Can you please stop that? Thank you so much. Please try again.
Should I share?
Yeah, it's still not working. Maybe for the interest in time, like Harshita, if you can share, and we'll that way.
Do you have the updated version, Harshita ji?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So we'll get started. Let's go to the next page. So first of all, I guess everyone's question is like, what is metaverse? And thanks to my employer, and he has actually made the name very universal in every household now. Even though metaverse as a phrase and metaverse as a concept has stayed in the industry for more than a decade now, maybe more than that. But yes, it definitely got a big name and big marketing when Zuckerberg came out and created a video and explained about how their version of metaverse may look like. And historically, we have heard a lot of big companies coming with their version of metaverse. Now, let me take a step back and explain everyone what is the metaverse and what are we talking about. So, in a simple terms, it's the next stage of evolution of a digital experience. For example, we are talking right now with Zoom or mobile internet or internet in general. So the way our experiences have evolved, especially with the COVID, our experiences have boosted in terms of digital experiences, and the thread between digital experience and real experience in the physical world has even gone on thinner with time. So metaverse is going to be a next stage evolution. If you think of it, you have to go look down to look at your phone or look at your screen all the time or open your laptop. These are in some sense hurdles to connect to other people's. But imagine a stage where these hurdles go lower, and let's say you can just put your spectacles and click just a button, and then automatically you can see AR and VR and people in almost real like shapes and talk to them. So that's going to be next stage digital experience, and that's definitely the next step how internet is evolving right now. Now, what is the metaverse? So it is going to be set of digital spaces and interconnected immersive 3D experiences. I know I said a mouthful. I'll take a step back again and explain what it might look like. Maybe the best example is the gaming industry. A lot of games like Fortnite or Second Life, they have been around for many years, and they have like 80. For example, Fortnite has 80 million active users on a monthly level. So there are big communities who use these gaming platforms to interact with each other, and they get so immersed in these experiences. A lot of those are closely going to resemble how the metaverse is going to look like. But as you can imagine, right now only the gamers or a certain set of younger population is actually going onto that platforms. They are the early movers. But if I think of myself about 15 years ago, probably we were early movers in the mobile internet industry, and we were the early users, early adopters, and we were able to figure out like how to use this for our benefit, whether it is to submit assignments, to create content, and whatnot. So similarly, metaverse, right now there are a few early movers, but at the end of the day, it's a set of digital spaces, and how we can go into those digital spaces, have social interactions that gonna mimic what physical interactions look like as of today. And it is going to be a hybrid of today's online social experience projected into physical world as well, as we grow more into augmented reality. So now again the way technology is going to evolve, we are going to have more and better experiences. For example, we used to connect internet probably 25 years ago through a dial-up connection with a phone line that improved, and then we moved towards a small computer called a laptop, and the internet got faster and we could accomplish a lot of things. Then there was another shift, we moved to the mobile internet, where the experiences just exploded. A lot of people didn't have that backlog of buying a expensive laptop to actually access the internet. Even a small device could connect millions of people across the globe to share those experiences, to buy things online, to to meet with different people online. So a lot of use cases happened when mobile internet got wider and the reach got bigger. So metaverse is going to be the next step. Imagine having an avatar that can experience close to physical world experiences, and probably again going to the online gaming experiences. A lot of youth today are on many such platforms who provide very immersive 3D experiences where they can actually build communities, talk to people. And I'll take a step back and again probably go to 15 years back. I used to be in college at IIT Kanpur, and one of my roommate during college, he was comparatively an introvert and a shy person, and no one would used to visit him during first few months at the college. But he was very good at playing one game, AOE, at that time. And he started soon developing a community there because he was very good at the game, and he had a very he built a brand for himself in the game. Soon a lot of college folks also started playing, and soon he became sort of a celebrity among those people. The boundaries between a game and real life got thinner. A lot of people started visiting him. In fact, his real name was something else, but his on the game name was Neo, and everyone started calling him Neo in the college. And everyone started giving such a certain level of respect because he was a very good player in the online world. So that's how the whole experience, I believe that in real life world also is going to evolve very soon. And the boundaries between what we call today virtual experiences versus real experience are going to get thinner and thinner. So with that, let's move to the next page. Harshita, can we move to the next
just
page?
a second.
No worries.
I'll just probably share screen again. Apologies, I think it's just got stuck.
Rajanji, can you please try to share your screen once again?
Yeah, I'm still trying. It still says only host can share.
Yeah, I think now it's visible.
Yeah, it's visible. That's fine. I think that's fine. So again, now let's imagine how that metaverse or these kind of social experiences, how they are going to look like. So we already have the building blocks of it. We have mobile internet. We have a lot of use cases of augmented reality already in place. We have so many virtual reality experiences already in place. Gaming industry is way ahead in their adaptation towards metaverse. And as people may not be aware, some foundational products and services are already available. For example, you can already go and buy and do live shopping on a lot of platforms. And I'll talk about a few platforms particularly where you can go and actually buy digital goods and services. But I think one person already told that just yesterday, JP Morgan announced that they are going to open a bank branch in metaverse. We have seen a lot of news around people buying land on metaverse. A lot of celebrities have done their concerts on metaverse. And I'll definitely talk about some of the major platforms pretty soon. In terms of the major players, big tech definitely are going to be the first movers. And Google, Microsoft, now my employer Meta, they all have their own version of metaverse. Probably my employer more committed, and hence they even changed their name. They want to be considered not a social media company, but a metaverse company in coming years. And as I said, it's not that one company is going to build one version of metaverse. It's like every company has some different version of products and services they can offer through this new kind of experience, which is going to be better than what we experience today in terms of mobile internet, or for example, a Zoom call. Maybe we can have a call in actual, just flopping, small glasses, and we would actually see each other in a kind of a created environment where we are probably sitting on a conference room. So that's the experience that big companies are trying to build. In terms of the video games, as I said, Epic Games, it is the company that created Fortnite, which has like 80 million users already, who already buy a bunch of products online, and the sales are already through the roofs. Roblox is another platform that I really like. Unity is another rule engine that I really like. They are the major players in this space. They may not be big tech, but they're very, very focused on how um, this new reality is going to shape up. And just maybe some of you have heard Roblox from your teens or kids, because they are the main users there. They are using Roblox to create 3D worlds, and the creativity is one of the major ingredients. Obviously, to create the metaverse, you'll need a lot of engineers, a lot of data scientists, and whatnot. But at the same time, you need a lot of creativity. And at the end of the day, the idea is to have, for example, when probably 25 years ago, 20 years ago, when Google is started or Facebook is started, they may not have envisioned a use case that a person sitting in a small Indian village will use a live function on Facebook to sell sari to his or her local customers. But now we see those use cases, and those people who may not be that tech savvy can use simple features to actually boost their sales. So similar thing are going to happen to metaverse as well. It's just that we are still too early in the journey. And with that, let's move to the next step, and I'll talk about specific use cases. So let's talk about real estate, for example. And obviously, there are many industries which are going to get impacted, and in different ways, because different companies from their, especially it's imagine, it's a world or set of worlds being created by software engineers. And the way it's going to open up opportunities for real estate is twofold. One, in terms of virtual real estate. I know it's a acronym in itself, virtual and real, but yeah, it's not going to be a physical space, but it is going to be a real estate in a virtual land. You won't believe Roblox kind of platforms or Decentraland kind of platforms are already selling lands for millions of dollars. And big investors have said that, right now, a land on Decentraland is I have taken an example of Decentraland because that's the platform I like, but there are many like them. But yeah, even though the minimum probably, I checked yesterday, the minimum parcel of a small land on Decentraland was actually at least $10,000 already. But people are still saying, and people who actually are in the business, that it is still a hot commodity, like probably New York real estate in 1750s. Now, virtual land parcel being sold are like probably for only the one version of how the real estate is going to evolve. And one could ask like, okay, but virtual land is unlimited and it can grow. I could argue that even the real land is unlimited. There are a lot of forest and barren land which we can develop and make it useful. But there are economic forces that let us not do it. Similarly, it's going to happen in virtual land as well. There are going to be some economic forces which are not going to make it easy to create more land at wish. So that's part about virtual land. There are going to be a lot of elite services related to land, where eventually people are going to figure out like, okay, there are n number of platforms. Which platforms will offer me a better land and better ROI? It is similar to asking a broker, okay, in which city should I buy, or in which locality should I buy? So I pretty much envision that sooner than later, brokerage, mortgage, valuation, and all other kind of related services would flourish around all these virtual platforms and virtual real estate. That I talked about virtual land and virtual real estate. Obviously, there will be a lot of development as well, and probably a civil engineer is not going to make the development, but probably creators who are innovative, they are gonna build those 3D and develop those lands into a 3D caricatures, 3D creations. And as we speak, a lot of people have created art galleries, Disneyland, casinos on Decentraland already. And people can actually go to Decentraland, just sign up, go there, and you can go and play a casino online using their own currency, obviously. Now, coming to the implication on physical real estate. Again, virtual land is not gonna, it's gonna be new opportunity. Yes, maybe there may be some minor some minor cannibalization, but I don't see that it's going to be competing with physical real estate. I definitely see that it's going to complement physical real estate and AR VR technology as they evolve. And couple of names that I'm throwing here, Vera and Real AR are among the many early leaders, and these are the ones I have been following, especially Real AR. They're already creating technology that can help us boost our sales around real estate, create that experience that, once you go to Real AR and then look at our vision, especially for the builders and construction community, if they go to Real AR and use that, they can really figure out an experience for the user. They can make it really good experience, and hence they can boost sales as well. Can we go to the next page? Now let me shift gear to retail. This is the very, very exciting space. Right now, we already have so many, I have just taken an example of 2 or 3, but so many existing brands moving into metaverse as we speak. It's an excellent place to acquire new customer, especially of a certain demographic, which is early teens or very young demographic, who are still coming up their curve and who are going to become a big community in near future. Already, bigger brands have made inroads there. They are already selling digital products. For example, Gucci is selling $13 virtual sneakers on Roblox as of today. Imagine young people who may not have so much of money to buy Gucci products, but they can actually buy at least a virtual sneaker for just $13 on Roblox with the Gucci brand. It's going to create a brand affinity as early as possible. It's going to give a taste to everyone how those brands look like. And as I said earlier, that the lines between virtual and real world are going to be thin as we go ahead. It is fairly easy to see that, okay, virtual metaverse platforms would become some kind of testing platforms as well, where brands would launch first and then eventually figure out like, okay, is that good enough and to launch in the physical world. And just a couple of more examples, Nike is making inroads. They have acquired a few fashion startups purely based on online content. Ralph Lauren has sold already 100,000 plus items within weeks on JITO. That's another platform similar to Roblox. Now, if you ask me, what are the major retail use cases that we can think of, which have very early adaptation? So beauty, fashion, and home furnishing are 3 hot categories that I think are very, very big for any AR augmented experience. Imagine if I go to IKEA, which is a major furniture store in US, I still have to go to IKEA and go through all their shop and everything, and then figure out, okay, which furniture pieces are fit for me. Every piece of that experience can be created in 3D, can be created in virtual AR, where I don't have to go outside of my house. I can still walk through aisles of IKEA and figure out, okay, which furniture pieces I like, and then just order them and they'll be delivered to my place. So that's how we believe that world is going to evolve. And as I said, it is not impossible to imagine that there may be a few brands which are going to originate from metaverse, or they are going to be metaverse brands, and eventually they are going to step into physical world rather than the opposite, rather than Nike or Ralph Lauren going into the digital world to get more customers and sell their products. One could create a brand on Roblox, maybe a cap, or maybe a t-shirt, which says a funky headline or tagline, which a lot of people like. And eventually their avatars are using those products. And eventually in real life, they will actually launch that t-shirt and that brand will become famous. So it's not difficult to imagine all those use cases in retail. But yeah, those, like as I said, beauty, fashion, and home furnishing are my personal hot categories that I believe are already ready for AR related experience. And as we speak, Walmart is already creating their version of metaverse where people can go and have a very good sense of shopping. Right now, if I go to Walmart website and try to shop products, I see a 2D picture of it. But when I am actually gonna have glasses and the hardware necessary that I can actually feel like I'm already walking through a Walmart aisle and I can actually feel the products as well. That's another technology a lot of companies are working in, that how do we use our fingers to actually feel some of those products. So as you can imagine, a lot of these things are still evolving. A lot of technologies are, some blocks are there, as I said, AR and VR, but a lot of such technology that how do you experience these things? Companies are working on it, and sooner or later they will crack it. And as soon as we crack it, and as soon as the technology progress, there will be an exponential adoption of this technology. And as I said, it is going to be looking like what mobile internet was 20 years ago. I remember the days when people used to say that, okay, why would I order online any t-shirt, because it's not going to fit me, or any shoe, it's not going to fit me. But today every shoe and t-shirt brand is on Amazon or any other kind of online e-commerce platform, because that's where the people are, and the experience has become better and better over time. So now it has become more viable. Similar thing I envision for metaverse as well. With that, let's move to the next page. So I'll just continue the same thoughts for gems and jewelry sector as well. As I said, opportunities are going to be there to cross-sell across real and virtual world. A lot of jewelers, as of now, as of today, major players have not announced anything concrete, but a lot of things are still under the wraps and are still in progress. But a clear-cut use case for jewelry would be fashion jewelries to make inroads into gaming space and metaverse space, where they can actually sell their own branded content. There's already a big demand for branded virtual objects, like branded necklaces and branded rings, and a lot of people have already started buying it. But I think it's only going to be one part of the equation where people are going to buy branded virtual objects. They're going to have a metaverse marriage or metaverse concert, and that's where they want to wear those fancy branded virtual jewelry. But at the same time, as I said earlier, those are going to be a good, it's not, don't think of it in the sense that, okay, those are all virtual objects and they're probably not going to cost money. They are going to cost money, because even developing a virtual objects, it's costly. At the same time, they're going to transcend the boundaries. Now that people are comfortable with certain designs and whatnot, it's so easy to actually ship a physical products to those customers as well. So there is immense opportunity in terms of how the lines are going to get thinner, and how augmented reality is going to boost the customer acquisition and sales in gems and jewelry as well. With that, I'll take a pause and I'll probably start taking questions. I know I already spoke for 10-15 minutes. Want to make sure that we double down and double dip on some of the conversations we have.
Thank you, Rajat for your very powerful speech regarding the metaverse. Audiences, please put out your questions in the chat box. I would like to ask Mr. Sunil Malu, JPF's Gujarat Zone Convener, and Mr. Abhishek Jain, JPF Mumbai Zone Convener, to do the Q&A round.
Hi, Rajitji. Thanks for the insightful presentation. So the question here is that what kind of opportunities do businesses who are in non-tech space have right now through metaverse? What should they do in order to make the most of this opportunity at this point of time?
Right. For example, again, I would say it depends on the kind of business and the kind of platforms you're targeting. But for example, if you are into retail space, as I said, a lot of these platforms like Roblox and Decentraland, there are just a couple of them. There's Sandbox. There are so many right now who already have millions of users on their platform across the globe. They are very, very easy space. Think of an extension of your online space right now. Imagine 5 years ago, 10 years ago, a lot of small players started advertising to Instagram or Facebook or Google, because that's where the people were. That's where people can actually look at, and those become advertising giants. Similarly, all these smaller platforms that I spoke about, those are soon gonna become giants for advertising. For a small business who may not have those kind of luxury to go into tech space, think of it this way. Probably 5 years ago, it may have sounded difficult to create or 10 years ago, it may have sounded difficult to create a website. But now there are platforms who actually build a website for you very easily, right? So sooner or later those pipes are going to be created. And in fact, I can tell you without voiding my NDA with my own employer, that yes, big companies are creating those pipes So that the vision is that small individual, not even small businesses, but a small individual, imagine a person who is literally challenged with the technology and they cannot use the technology. If they want to create and design a t-shirt, because that's their expertise, they want to design a t-shirt and sell it on a platform or on a metaverse, they should be able to do so without even understanding the technology. They should be able to basically just use the technology very easily. Right now, I can say that it's still developing. There are very few platforms which will allow you to do that. Decentraland is definitely one of those where you can literally go create your own account and then start using it. Start using your and selling your products. Buy a land or rent a land if you can't buy because it's already becoming expensive. But a lot of people have created lands, created shops on them, created casinos on them and whatnot. So you can actually just rent some land and create your own a small shop and actually and it's very easy. You don't have to be technologically expert. You just go sign up and simply pick and choose, and then you can actually already start listing your projects or products on platforms like Decentraland. But as I said, more of such platforms are gonna pop up, and everyone is gonna come up with their own version of user experience, which is more easier for more users to come in. Right now, bigger players have the advantage because they understand the space. But soon, at the end of the day, it's not going to be concentrated among bigger players. It has to come towards every player. So it will come soon.
Thanks. Thanks.
Rajesh, next question to you. It's been said that sometime in future, virtual reality will become so real that it will be hard to distinguish between reality and virtual reality. Sir, what's your thoughts on this and how it scares you on our society?
Thanks a lot. Great question. When 10 years ago I used to post anything on Facebook, I didn't think about repercussions. I thought it's a separate world. No one looks at it, and I used to post anything. But last 5 years, I post anything. I look at 10 times at it because laws have caught up, companies have caught up. A lot of people from my family and friend circle are there. So whatever I speak, it's not some different version of me that no one is hearing. It's an extension of myself on social media. Similarly, metaverse is going to evolve. Right now, when I connected to one of the metaverse platforms the other day, I was in a room with a bunch of random folks and we were talking to each other. Uh, but obviously, their experience is going to evolve. Since I didn't know them, I could say anything, they could say anything. And we frankly didn't even understand, what was the conversation. And obviously, I can imagine there could be abusive use cases out there right now because anonymity gives people some kind of enablement, especially to the bad actors. But as we grow into bigger communities, as the laws are going to catch up, the policies are going to catch up, and especially now big companies already have some experience how this social media and everything works, so they already know that how bad actors can do there and what kind of harms it causes. So I think next evolution of it should be more informed. It's not gonna be like, okay, we created an experience and now we are seeing the bad things and now we are gonna cater to them. We already know what kind of possible bad scenarios happen. For example, I'm already working in a youth safety space. We know so many things that happen on our platforms or other platforms as well, and we already are working on not so publicized actions that we do with central agencies, with enforcement agencies like FBI and whatnot across the globe. So yes, those things are going to continue and in fact enhance over time, so that our experiences are more safer. At the end of the day, imagine whoever is creating that metaverse, whether it's a company or group of people, they want to make a safe experience for everyone else. Otherwise, why would customers or users will join, and why would the metaverse evolve? So I believe that yes, it is going to look better than today's online world because we have already learned from it how bad it can go.
The next question, Rajenji, is from Vishalji, and he wants to stick with so many metaverses, so many emerging platforms. How do you value those? Because our land is scarce, so we kind of there can be a valuation increase. But how do you value those, and how do you see it kind of progressing?
Right. I mean, it's right now very open and very early. For example, in entertainment space or social media space, Instagram is there, TikTok is there, ShareChat is there. A lot of players are there, and as you can imagine, they are still growing. They are still having unicorn and billion-dollar valuations. In metaverse space, a lot of players have popped up. only time will tell which are the players who are going to survive, because it depends on what kind of services and experiences they are offering, what kind of experiences and services people will actually like. Because right now, some engineers have coded something and they believe like, okay, XYZ things people may like, but it is fairly possible that users may not like it and move. For example, Orkut. I'll take an example of Orkut. It used to be product in our days when my first social media experience was Orkut, but it died its own natural death because it didn't provide the kind of experiences we were looking for. In terms of the valuation, yes, right now it's definitely difficult to value what kind of actual services and products are going to be offered. If you go to more deterministic level of valuation, you can actually look at platforms like more mature platforms like Roblox, Decentraland, Sandbox, who are already revenue generating, and probably do a DCM and figure out like, okay, what's their value. But in this space, I would say similar to emerging technology space, a lot of value is still to be unfolded, and that's why some of the valuations you may think it's based on the belief of some of the investors, like, okay, X and Y and Z things could happen in near term with uh, uh, certainty, and that's why the valuation could look like very high right now. But yes, I could warn, especially people who are rushing to buy land, virtual land on Decentraland and other platforms. I would advise a caution that yes, it's all a rosy picture, but at the end of the day, yes, in long term it would be a place to go. But in short term, there can be fluctuations, there can be volatility, and there can be supply demand gaps. And that's why I wouldn't advise anyone to go and directly and just buy random piece of land on Decentraland. You really need good advice of actual metaverse real estate experts who will tell you like which parcel of the land are going to be useful, because probably it's going to be in front of the Nike store, or it's going to be in front of a concert space. So those things are going to evolve.
Thank you, Rajesh. We are having a lot of other questions, but we will take the last one because of paucity of the time. The next question is, how can we do a thorough research in which asset to buy, which asset not to buy, and on which platform? Like we are having various research platforms for other types of asset class. So what are the platforms which are useful or which you can suggest for metaverse? Please.
Sure. So definitely, internally, I can suggest that we have started video series. In fact, we have I think already launched 5 videos from Meta as a company, because this was one of the question for a lot of our employees as well. Like when our friends and family ask this question, how do we respond? So we started creating a video series. I think we have so far covered only 5 chapters with few concepts and how people can learn about it. So that's definitely one version. Obviously, there are a few influencers and experts in the field who are going to tell you like which are the platforms. But I think the best way would be to actually go and use these platforms. If you have never experienced VR, go buy a Quest or go buy a Google Box or a Snap glasses, and actually learn like, okay, how is the experience, and maybe compare that experience, and you can have your own version. Like, okay, maybe I like this versus that better, and that's why maybe I should go there. Go create an account on Decentraland, create an account on Sandbox, and see like what kind of objects are being sold there, what kind of experiences you can have. And in my mind, that is going to tell you way more than any one person gonna tell you in 10, 15 or 20 minutes. And I have done my research like that. I'm a very apart from being very close to the development of one version of metaverse as we speak, because Meta is already working on it, and all our functions are in some sense I'm in youth safety space, but that's also a space which has a metaverse component to it. But as I said, go there, experience it. Some version of it is already there, and that is going to tell you. And at the end of the day, it's gonna be a personal bet that okay, which version you like. Probably a lot of people like you are gonna like that version too. So probably that's gonna have a higher returns.
Definitely, sir. Over to us.
Just to add, due to paucity of time, we are unable to take more questions, but the participants can send their questions in the chat window. We will try and try to get answers from Rajanji later on.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you, Rajalji. Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you, Rajalji, and thank you, Sunil, for this very interesting Q&A session. Moving on to our second speaker, I would now like to welcome Mr. Satish Kataria. Mr. Satish Kataria comes from over 21 years of diverse, multifaceted experience across marketing and financial innovation. After spending 8 years in PR and corporate communications, he shifted to managing funds and worked across venture capitalist funds, handling portfolios as diverse as real estate, films, media, and startups. In 2010, driven by a mission to democratize fundraising for upcoming entrepreneurs, he pioneered crowdfunding in India for the very first time and went on to launch and successfully exit from true crowdfunding platforms and continue building more financial platforms. He is also a certified life coach, NLP coach, as well as and the author of many uh, books and often mentors early stage entrepreneurs. Welcome, Mr. Satish Kataria. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Harshita, and thanks, Dheeraj, and the entire JITO team here for giving me this opportunity. And thank you, Rachel, for an awesome, quick version on metaverse. I understand it's a huge subject, and you tried to kind of condense that in about 15 minutes, which is quite an effort. All right. So I think while Rachel was speaking about some things which will exist in future, I'm going to talk about the investment verse, so as to say. So we're going to talk about how two specific factors, which are fractionalization and tokenization, and how they're impacting and shaping the future of investments, as we know. So I'll just quickly share my presentation. Just hold on. So, yeah, can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see that.
Okay, all right. Awesome. All right. So I think when we talk about the future of investments, there are multiple factors which are impacting the way we used to invest and we used to look at returns, right? And while this figure talks about the multiple changes which are happening across demographics, the macroeconomic trends, what I'm going to focus is about three factors which are bringing a massive change, and that is the next billion customers which are coming on, and the millennial and the women investors. These are the demographic population which earlier was not used to make the key investment decision, but now they are, and that itself is going to impact the way of investment industry. The other is the rise in alternative investments, right? So far, most of us have only looked at very conventional investment mediums, but now, as my next slide will further emphasize on that, most of us are now looking at alternative and multiple investment options. And I think the third and the biggest factor is obviously the technology, right? All of us have access to data, all of us have access to the net, right? And I think you would have already experienced platforms like Zerodha, which has totally changed the way we used to do stock investing. So that itself is a very small example of how technology is going to impact the future of investments. Again, as I said, we are now focusing on alternative investments. If I look at from 2014 to about 2018, the total amount that is being invested in alternative asset classes, which are your private equities, your hedge funds, your real estate, your private debt, these are the uncommon, I would say, investment asset classes. Normally, when we think of investment, we think of gold, we think of saving deposits, and we think of stock markets, right? But now, lot of people are going beyond those typical asset classes, and indeed, more than 50% of HNIs normally have access to two or more alternative asset classes in their entire investment basket, right? So these two are the main factors which are now going to impact the future of investments. Again, what is happening is because of the factors that I spoke about, earlier when I spoke of investments, especially in new age ideas, we only used to talk about venture capital or private equity, but even within there, there are a lot of new models which are emerging out, right? So we may have heard about crowdfunding, we may heard about revenue-based funding, We are hearing about technological banks. So these are the new models which are emerging out, right? And fortunately, I had an opportunity to be able to launch and work out on these two models in India. Talking about crowdfunding, very simply put, crowdfunding is nothing but kind of a democratization of fundraising, wherein instead of just few people investing into a single idea, a lot of people now started pooling small capital to be able to support new ideas, right? And that is how crowdfunding is all about. If you really think about this, very interestingly, it was in India that saw the very first example of crowdfunding happening. If you remember the movie the movie called Manthan, which was made by Sam Benegalji way back in I think this was somewhere in 1970s, right? And this was a movie which kind of showed the right how the whole Amul movement came about. Now that movie, if you are aware, was made by pooling 2 rupees each from almost 5 lakh farmers of that Gujarat cooperative movement, you know. So that was a very, very basic and a very first example of crowdfunding. Today, crowdfunding has evolved big time. You know, so market is almost $200 billion, and you know it is growing almost by more than 15 to 20% year on year. Today we are seeing multiple models of crowdfunding, be it reward-based crowdfunding, equity-based crowdfunding, right? P2P lending. You know, so P2P lending is again, you know, fortunately has got regulatory approval in India, but other ways of crowdfunding are yet to see the regulatory approval in India. Hopefully, with time, I think we will see it happening. But the kind of growth which is happening in crowdfunding today is actually beating the conventional funding resources that we know about. So crowdfunding, it is estimated that in next 2 or 3 years, will actually be funding more ideas than venture capital and private equity in total will be doing. Again, a very different and interesting model is revenue-based funding, wherein which means that people invest into companies and they get to take a percentage of profits as part of their repayment, right? So what is happening in this case is that the company is able to take money without diluting equity and also taking it as a quasi debt instrument wherein they are able to divide part of their profits amongst multiple holders. So that is what revenue-based funding is all about. I was also fortunate enough to work with revenue-based funding in India. We launched some platforms like Avitak, and then there are other platforms like Advantage in India, which are doing revenue-based funding today. And you know, if you look at the second graph, which is the graph below, you will notice that there are almost 63.4 million MSMEs in India and almost 50,000 startups. Most of them are already making revenues, and they can actually use the power of these revenues to be able to raise funding through a revenue-based funding without the need to dilute equity and without the need to raise a proper bank-led collateral or a loan, right? So that is the disruption that revenue-based funding is making in the investment world. Again, you know, so what we're talking about fractionalizing. We're talking about cutting the entire pie or cutting the entire investment requirement into small pieces. So while crowdfunding and revenue-based funding was talking about cutting the supply of funds, you know, because so what is happening? So let's say I want to raise 1 crore for my idea. So instead of taking 1 crore from one person, I can now use crowdfunding to raise 1 crore from 100 people, right? So what I have done, I have cut down 1 crore into 100 pieces and I've taken money from 100 people. That is what crowdfunding is. Or again, I have used revenue-based funding and I've said that, okay, I will, whatever profit I will make on that 1 crore, I will distribute that profit to those 100 people. So that was the fractionalization or the division of from the supply of money. But then we are now also seeing a trend wherein there is a fractionalization happening from the ownership of the funds, of the projects. Because what was happening in crowdfunding or revenue-based funding was the ownership was still with the asset manager or with the owner. But now the next phase of this change is where the ownership itself is getting divided amongst people. And that is what we mean by the fractionalization of investments. So as I said, the fractional investing allows people to pool in money that they invest to create a large enough corpus to invest in some high value projects, right? And hence they are able to take or become part owners of that project. And today, fractionalization is across various sectors across the world, right? So talk about real estate, talk about green energy, talk about shares, even talk about art. Everything, every asset class today is getting fractionalized. And that is the whole beauty of it, right? And even if I talk about even the real estate space, you won't believe that in the span of just last 5 years, we have seen emergence of 10 plus fractional real estate platforms in India. I've just tried to give a few examples. And, if you look at the slide, almost 750 to 800 crores of money has been invested into real estate in India through these fractional real estate platforms. So that itself, I think, talk about the popularity and the rising acceptance of this kind of way of funding and way of investing real estate in India today. Now let's move on to even next stage. So we saw crowdfunding, we saw revenue-based funding, we saw fractionalization, and the next stage is tokenization, wherein technology and fractionalization, both of them meet together. So tokenization is nothing. Is a very, if you ask me, it's a very simple definition of tokenization is that whatever fractional ownership or fractional part that you used to own, now you are digitizing it over a blockchain solution. So that is what we mean by tokenization of various alternative investment assets. What are the benefits of tokenization, right? So one, obviously, now you're able to fractionalize a particular asset, right? So let's say that if I as a user or I as a single investor, I can't invest into a 10 crore or a 100 crore office complex. But if that same office complex is fractionalized into, let's say, 1,000 pieces, right, and is tokenized, then I, as a small investor, can invest my small amount of money and can leverage the benefits of investing in that kind of a large commercial property. So that is what we mean by fractionalization. Second, data transparency. Because a token is on the blockchain, and blockchain as a technology kind of corroborates the actual titleship, which cannot be then changed when it is noticed on the blockchain. So that tokenization itself is bringing a lot of transparency and a lot of clarity in who is actually owning and who holds the titleship of a particular asset. So that transparency has now come on board because of tokenization. Shorter settlement times. Earlier, when we want to exit from our shares or when we want to exit from any of the alternative asset classes, it used to take 2-3 long months because there were multiple procedures involved. But now with a token, which can be exchanged just digitally from one person to other person through an open marketplace, the settlement time is much faster. The transferability of the asset becomes much faster, right? Obviously, then you have operational efficiency, right? Because now, even for a larger asset, because you are able to tokenize it, you can manage it easily. You can give specific rights to those kind of token holders. All of those things can now be managed through technology like smart contracts, which makes it easier to be able to record rights and also legally prove and implement those rights, right? So all those fights which used to happen over real estate or any of the other asset classes will now become a lot more simpler to manage, and the whole system becomes a lot more transparent. Flexibility, as I said, now if the asset is tokenized, right, you can have multiple share classes, you can have multiple rights given out. You can have one right to one person, the other right to other person, without getting into detailed agreements, without getting and waiting for legal approvals, right? Everything can be very easily digitized and put into a smart contract, and that itself can put the right on paper. And then obviously, as I said, the liquidity, right? Now the transferability of the assets becomes a lot more simpler. So these are the main benefits of tokenization. There are again, tokenization and fractionalization of investments is making changes in all the areas of investment, right? I will just maybe in this slide, for the paucity of time, I will just focus on real estate, right? So as I said earlier, real estate used to be an illiquid and a large asset, to be disposed of or to be transacted. But with tokenization, now it becomes a lot more simpler to be able to sell and get investors for large commercial projects. And there is a lot of flexibility. You can have multiple asset classes even within the real estate domain, and investors can now invest with small pools of money and get the same benefits from real estate as an asset class. This again kind of shows that how the tokenization is increasing across various investment asset classes, and it is estimated that by year 2027, almost 10% of GDP in respect of the total money invested would have been tokenized. Tokenization is not only helping tangible assets, it is also helping intangible assets like your creators, right? So today, your creators can create digital art, they can create a lot of videos, and all of that content, can today be tokenized. So we know about NFTs, which are the non-fungible tokens, and this itself has become a big boon for a lot of creators and content makers, because earlier they were not able to monetize the content. There were always issues of how do I monetize my videos, how do I monetize my digital arts. They always used to search for buyers and search for investors. But now with NFTs, they can put all those asset classes onto digital tokens, and that digital tokens itself have created a huge market, which is helping creators to become more creative and to be able to kind of contribute and create more and more content. Indeed, last year itself, NFTs worth $40 billion have been transacted across multiple creative crosses. What I'm doing here is, again, I'm giving very few examples of some platforms in India as well as in international markets which are tokenizing various asset classes, right? So, for example, RealX in India is tokenizing real estate. There is a platform called What and See, which is tokenizing, and you can now invest into solar plants and rooftops and green energy assets. There's a platform called Spice, which is actually tokenizing venture capital funding. There's a platform called Token, wherein you can buy fractional components into art assets, right? So let's say that I want to buy MF Hussain. So today you have 100 people who can have ownership on that MF Hussain and then reap the benefits of selling that art asset tomorrow in the market. And you have platforms like NFTically in India, which is helping a lot of people to tokenize their creativity and their content, and create NFTs in the market and be able to sell and transact them in a digital avatar. Again, I'm going to talk about a few platforms that I am again working on. So SS Positive, we are trying to create alternative assets marketplace, which is again based on blockchain, and wherein we are going to try to fractionalize multiple asset classes, be it startups, be it secondary shares, be it real estate, be it crypto-based platforms. So that is what we are trying to build with SS Positive. Similarly, one more platform that I'm associated with is Fundora, which is trying to help content creators able to sell their NFT rights. They can now sell their digital token rights and hence be able to get money for any new product or any new content that they want to create. So that is again how the tokenization is going to help multiple business people, multiple entrepreneurs to be able to crowdfund and raise money for their product ideas. Similarly, today we were able to raise funding for another interesting platform called CoinBasket, which is now able to create a crypto mutual fund kind of a platform, wherein any one of us can invest in multiple sets of multiple crypto coins, right, and benefit from the market and benefit from the traction that is happening in crypto coins today as a whole market, right? So again, these are some examples of how tokenization and fractionalization is making an impact in the future of investments. Yeah, that's it. I think from my side, it's obviously a huge topic, but what I was trying to do out here is just to kind of give you a glimpse of what is happening and how are these new investment models which are around tokenization and around fractionalization coming up, right? I hope that was useful. Yeah, so I'm open to questions now.
Thank you, Satishji, for your very inspiring speech regarding the future of investments. Audience, please put out your questions in the chat box. I would like to ask Mr. Priyank Singhi JPF East Zone convener, to do the Q&A round. Priyank, over to you.
So much, Arshita. And thank you so much, Satish sir, for a wonderful and a crisp deliberation. We have a questions here that we would like you to answer for the benefit of our participants, sir. So the
Sure.
first question is, how would you value a startup in the artificial intelligence space, with which has very little traction? And would you be personally interested in investing in such a company?
Yeah, Priyank, while this question is not related to my topic today, but I think the way we do a valuation for a early stage technology company, so we kind of understand what is the kind of future impact that the startup can create and what kind of future market it can explore. And on that basis, we can always work out on a standard valuation. Also, what happens nowadays in India is, especially for the early stage investment, we do not get into valuation at all. We make investment through instrument called safe note, right, which is like a convertible or a quasi debt instrument, wherein we give and support the entrepreneur so that he can use the money to reach to a stage where he's now much more clear of his business objectives and business value and the traction, and then he can raise a value round or a price round, and then at that stage, the people who had invested in him will be able to convert their debt into equity. So that's how the structuring is helping out early stage ventures today, and obviously I would be interested to support them.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for that. So the second question is that almost 30 to 35% of the combined market capital of the new age companies Zomato, Nykaa, Policy Bazaar, and Paytm has been wiped off in the recent days. So was it always on the cards because of such hefty valuations? And what do you think is the future of these companies going forward? I mean, and how will this affect the other listing? In the near days to come.
So then I think what will happen had that I would blame a little bit also on overhyping of these new age companies when they got listed, right? And obviously, since the whole world and whole media have been supporting their journey and talking about startups, and for example, even if I take example of Zomato, right? And Zomato has always been a favorite, baby of media, and we have always been hearing stories about Zomato. So to an extent, there was overhyping, and that led to a higher valuation and higher share price. So there was a kind of a correction was anyway expected to happen, and then which also kind of got linked with the overall correction in the market because of various factors not directly related to these companies. But having said that, I think I would still support the bets into these companies, and I think the way they are now focusing on profitability, the way now they are now focusing on new set of growth areas, I think eventually they will be able to build more and more value, and they will be able to deliver the value to their stakeholders.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for that.
Thank you.
So the next question is, if you could share a little more about crowdfunding and how a startup can use it to its benefit because the equity doesn't get diluted, and what is the tax treatment for such transactions, and how big do you see this crowdfunding market to be in India, sir, with all the trust issues that we have in general?
Sure.
What do you feel about that?
Yeah. So one unfortunate thing in India is that because of SEBI regulations, we cannot do equity crowdfunding in India, right? But then I think now what is happening is because a lot of these other platforms like SS Positive, startups can fractionalize their CCPS and their asset classes. So in a way, it is crowdfunding only. However, when I say crowdfunding, or when I launched crowdfunding in India, I actually thought that how can one invest into a startup with just 1,000 rupees, right? That was the true idea of a crowdfunding, which unfortunately cannot happen through equity round in India because India doesn't allow equity crowdfunding, and we have been working on a reward-based crowdfunding model, wherein people actually pre-buy a product, right? And there are no financial instruments which are traded. But having said that, crowdfunding is a very, very effective way of raising funds in an early stage and an early prototyping stage. And one of the best advantages of crowdfunding is that it just doesn't give you funding. It also gives you a lot of market validation, right? Because if someone tomorrow is giving you money even without your product being in a market and just on the strength of your idea, I think there cannot be any stronger validation than that part, right? So I think even if you can raise just 10 lakh rupees on crowdfunding, that is itself worth raising 1 crore through a conventional VC round. So I think crowdfunding is not very, very powerful. When it comes to taxation, I think, again, given that there are no clear regulations on the financial rewards from a crowdfunding, I think right now it will be treated as at a very individual level. It will not be treated at a company level. So I think that part can be taken care of.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is by Mr. Vishal Jain. He asks how the digital currency by the government can impact investment space, and how is the regulatory environment evolving for these new investment categories?
So I think the digital token by the government will be a boon. Again, as I said, because I think to a large extent it will validate and kind of further promote the whole idea of tokenizing, these investments, right? I think so that way it will be a strong boost. But unfortunately, what has happened now, and I think it will take time for the government and the industry to balance out the mutual expectations. The government, for example, in the current budget, has put a tax on all the digital assets, right? And they have put a very wide definition of digital assets. So while I understand that that could be more relevant for more crypto coins and other assets which are not backed by any asset today, but it could be detrimental to the tokens which are basing on certain asset classes like real estate or shares, because then this may add a layer of taxation on top of that, right? Which could be slightly detrimental to the interest of investors. But I think, as we are all seeing, the government is reconsidering some of the stipulations that they had suggested. For example, they already are talking about removing the 1% TDS part from the digital asset transactions. And I think there will be more balancing happening as the government realizes that, how a digital asset is something which cannot have a broad definition. They have to understand what are the different criteria of a digital asset to be able to have the right taxation policy on that. So I think the government would come up to it, but I think so far it's a good part for the industry, and it's a recognition by the government that yes, investments and assets can be digitized.
So the questions are pouring in, and if we take each one of them, we'll be here for another couple of hours. So I'll just take the last one. So the last question is, sir, how will regulation be there for mutual fund in cryptos, and how will it help in creating an alternate class wealth? How do you see the crypto industry in the future?
Yeah. So I think, as I said, regulations are coming in. While there is a clarity on two parts. One is that the government may not allow crypto to become a currency, right? So there is a clarity on that part, because so they will not allow crypto to be used as an alternative to a federal backed currency like a rupee, right? But on the other hand, the crypto or the token would be open to be accepted as an asset class, right? And which has already happened with the taxation laws. And I think that itself is a good beginning for us, because at least the government recognizes that, okay, whatever asset classes we used to have can now be digitized, and that digital avatar of that asset class will be recognized in the laws of book and in the laws of taxation as such. So I think whenever any new technology comes up, regulations always take time to catch up, right? And that is a trend of any industry. And I think that will happen in the crypto space as well. On the other hand, there are platforms which are happening up. For example, I took an example of Coinbasket today. So Coinbasket, if you go and have a look at it, they already have started making baskets of various cryptos, right? So it is like a small case of cryptos. And they already are trying to get into the crypto mutual fund space. However, obviously, the platform is not registered in India. It is registered in Singapore, because there are markets like Singapore and Dubai today are more friendly for crypto. India will still take some time to catch up. But I think that balance and that adjustment will keep happening. But as I said, there are a lot of people who are working on crypto technology today, and we will going to see massive changes in next few years.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your knowledge. And friends, please fill up the feedback form and ask your questions over there. We will try and get you a response from Satish sir. That is all from my end. With that, I would like to hand over the proceedings to Harshita. Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Satish ji, and thank you, Priyank. Just an announcement, we are planning to make a WhatsApp group of everyone in it, all the participants, so that we can get the answers from the speakers whenever possible. And please fill the feedback form so that we can add you in the WhatsApp group. And now I would like to request Mr. Ankit Barmecha, Secretary JITO Youth Wing, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Indra, and good evening to one and all present here. It is such an honor for me to get the opportunity to thank you all the dignitaries on behalf of the JITO Youth Wing. I would like to express my gratitude to all esteemed delegates of the webinar for their presence and contribution to make this webinar a great success. I extend my gratitude to our honorable speaker, Mr. Rajul Jain and Mr. Satish Kataria for sharing their words of wisdom and to take out time from their busy schedule to grace the event. Thank you for inspiring and encouraging us with your knowledge and letting us think out of the box, as was the theme for today. A special thanks to Mr. Ajay Ji Bora, JPF Chairman, Mr. Tapasvi Ji Diora, Chief Secretary JPF, Mr. Dheeraj Ji Chhajed, Chairman JITO Youth Wing, and Mr. Gaurav Ji Jain, Chief Secretary JITO Youth Wing, for providing immense support to make the webinar successful. I extend my gratitude to Harshita Ji Jain, Project Convener, JPF IBOX, to organize the webinar on such a scale. I must also thank all the zone conveners and project conveners and the entire organizing team for working hard for past few days to make this webinar successful. I congratulate all the participants for their active participation and hope that this continues in next seminars as well. Thank you everyone once again for making it a grand success.
Thank you everyone for being a part of this webinar today. Just please fill out the feedback form.
Harshita ji, we will also take a photograph. So I would request everyone to please switch on the cameras so that we can have a photograph.
Sure.